Welcome back to another episode of the Coach Estrada PE podcast. Today we have a special guest. Her name is Stephanie Sandino from Southern California. Can you give us a little quick 1 minute intro about you, Stephanie?
Holy cow, 1 minute. Hey, George, what's going on, buddy? Stephanie Sandino here. I am a middle school physical education teacher from Chino Valley Unified School District, Townsend Junior High School to be exact. Teach 7th and 8th grade. Little side jobs here and there with SB chat moderation, HPEC teacher leader, and a K through 8 elementary physical education workshop committee member. So little side gigs here and there.
So, do you ever sleep, Stephanie?
It's a great question. And I think I say it every time I present. I promise I sleep. I've been doing a lot better at it too. So yeah, I do sleep. I do try and take care of myself, and using that iPhone to set my bedtime, set my alarms, and
Sometimes
try and keep myself on track.
don't you be breaking curfew.
No, we're getting close though.
Yeah. Well, we are gonna have an absolutely awesome episode here with Stephanie. Stephanie, I've called you in the past the Flipgrid Queen, and you don't like the title. So what would you consider yourself as the Flipgrid what?
Flipgrid, goodness, enlightener. I don't know.
Oh,
I just, drop a little bit here and there of what I do. I don't exactly know it all about Flipgrid. And of course, I'm only limited to how I use it in phys ed, but I can show you a thing or two on my experiences with it. So
so let's
that's
get into it before it goes too crazy and then we get distracted. What is this Flipgrid for the people that don't know and break it down in simple terms as easy as you can.
So Flipgrid is a video-based discussion platform. You can either use it off of the device, whether you have iPhone, Android, but you can also use it off of a Chromebook, a laptop, a desktop, just by typing in www.flipgrid.com. And essentially on the teacher side, you have what is called a group, and that is your classroom. It can be periods 1 through 6. It can be first grade. It can be Miss Rosales. It can be however you want to set it up. And then within your group, you put in topics, and those are your prompts, right? What do you want your students to respond to? Do you want them to respond to a psychomotor domain question, a cognitive domain question, an affective domain question? Once you've put on that topic, then you give out a flip code to your students, and your students can respond via a video. And cool little features here and there that we can maybe get into a little bit later, but that's kind of the gist of it, and gives, most importantly, your student a voice, right? We always want to hear their voice, especially now. I know I'm a distance learning teacher, so I've been distance learning for the full year and will continue for the full year. So it's really important for me to hear my students' voice. Sometimes, they're behind a black screen for whatever reason. So being able to give them that little spotlight every now and then is super powerful.
Yeah, you've shared with me in the past all kinds of great stories, but the main thing that you said is that it is video, but then it's also been transformed into just type in and also a voice if they don't want to share their screen. And if they do want to kind of share their screen, they can also block out certain parts of the image and you can see kind of what they're doing. And you can check out if they are working out, if they are trying the activities out, which is just the goal of PE. Remember, we just got to keep it simple that we just want them being active, being proactive, actually engaging with the great content that Stephanie provides. And so, could you share what else you want to share today, Stephanie?
So spot on. Thank you for adding the whole voice feature. They've made so many updates that, it's hard to keep up with everything. You can make it a podcast. You can not just, have only text, but the text really comes into the responses back, or the feedback, or the interaction between you educator and student or student and student. So that's where the text can come in as well. And that's a new feature. But I just wanted to share a couple of ways that I've been using it this year, and it's been really helpful. And I think it's been a good experience, learning experience for my students, because it's allowed them to show me what they've learned for the trimester. You know, trimester one, we did the whole 5 components of health-related fitness, and we did the FIT principle, we did the overload principle, we did SMART goals, and then I had them, you know, do that whole fitness log, and they had to create their own specific SMART goal for the first time. This was like the first time they were ever so specific. I had a kid who was like, Miss Sandino, this is the most specific I've ever been in my life. I'm like, exactly, this is how specific you need to be in order to accomplish it. So I had them, you know, kind of track their goals and their fitness logs. And then I threw in a little curveball and I told them, okay, well, let me see if you're actually tracking your SMART goal here. Let's see if you're actually putting in the work, because if you're not going to see your end result, right? So I had them collect evidence, and that evidence translated into some type of video or some type of data that they acquired, and they put it in, you know, a Flipgrid project. They told me about their SMART goal. They told me about, you know, how often they were practicing this. They were telling me about their RPE. And it turned out to be a really cool project. And I mean, that's just one of them. We can go into the other one a little bit later.
Hold on, Steph, before you gloss over and forget the story that you did tell me about the stud student of yours. You said that there was a student that their goal was to unicycle. Is this true? Go get a clarification here.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my students, he learned how to unicycle. And he prior to us starting this, he knew how to unicycle. His goal was to unicycle for 1.5 miles, if I'm not mistaken. If I may have,
Nobody's gonna correct you on that. Mile and a half.
Mile and a half. I forget. It happened trimester 1. I'd have to go back and check. But yeah, I did have a unicycler, and I think that was really cool for other students to see, because it's not common to meet a unicycler along your journey, and let alone in junior high, right? You're like, what, unicycler? So he provided us with some video. Yeah, it was so cool. And you know, on your group, you have the setting where you can allow others to view. So you as a teacher can control that. You have complete control of just you yourself seeing your students' videos, or you can have it moderated to where everyone, all the classmates, the whole class can see each other's videos. So I think it was a really cool experience for his classmates. Everybody. Yeah, to see, wow, that's crazy. Your unicycle.
So Stephanie, go ahead and show us a little bit about this Flipgrid. I know you're going to share the screen right now for the people that don't have experience with Flipgrid. Like, what do you need to pay attention when you post, and can you just show us that maybe teacher's perspective? So here she goes. She's going to share her screen.
All right.
Oh, this is pretty cool. So yeah, go ahead. You break it down now.
Okay. So I'm going to go into my discussion. This is where my groups are located. So as you can see, I've have it grouped by period, just because it's easiest for me to organize in such manner. And so just picking a random period here, period 3. Here's my group. This is my class, my period 3 class. And then right here, you'll see my topics. So these are my prompts, right? And within these prompts, you have a lot of editing, I guess options. Settings, you can call them options. Yeah. So I'll go into my SMART goal one here, and I'll go to the little pencil, which is my edit, kind of a universal icon. So as you can see here, you've already got quite a few things to kind of look at. So you've got your title, you've got your prompt where you can neatly lay out what you expect your students to respond to. And then as we go down, you're going to see some fancy things that Flipgrid has the options to do, like adding a little picture icon to make things a little bit more visual for your students. Your permissions, so you can add a password if you want, maybe to add in some families or add in, you know, administration or other teachers where they have to put in a password to get into the actual prompt itself. But I think the most important things lie here where it says essentials. So this topic moderation button is pretty important to me, and I think for a lot of maybe teachers starting out with Flipgrid, because if it's not turned on, any responses that you get from your students will be automatically posted without even approving, without even kind of scanning for appropriateness or anything like that. So having that turned on is definitely super important for me, especially at the beginning of the year when I'm just starting to learn about my students, and just overall, I think it's a good habit to turn on. I know I have some students that are a little bit on the shy side. They didn't want to share their projects with everyone, so I left them as hidden just for my eyes only. They didn't want to share it with their classmates. So just another good little reason why you should probably have your topic moderation on. And to start,
Stephanie, right there, it says comment. Students can respond to others using video and text. So you select the option for none, but they could also have the option for a comment, and then you can approve those comments, right?
Right.
Okay,
So
just
if
making sure. Go ahead.
You're correct. Yeah. So all depends on your comfort level, right? If you're just starting off with this, maybe you're not comfortable with your students putting in any comments or video comments or both video and text comments. Again, if I did have this turned on, it would have to go through me.
Fantastic, fantastic. Keep going, and you're going on with the next part.
Right. You have the option to have the kids respond for as little as 15 seconds. I know with 200 plus kids in middle school, maybe not a good idea to have it set for 10 minutes because you're going to spend a lot of time grading and looking and watching at videos. So for this one, just because it was a project that was a little bit more extensive, I allowed them for 5 minutes. I felt like that was a good little compromise there. And captions. So you can have captions that go off. So if I recorded and it went in, if a student pressed closed captions, everything that I say would be at the bottom transcribed. So that's another
great.
Fun little fact. If you, like, let's say, taught at a predominantly Spanish speaking school, you can change it to Spanish. So that's another cool little option there. The other ones are just kind of options and features here are just kind of like, I guess,
So here on
bonus.
so here, Stephanie, on this attachment, that would be a video of you, or just an example of what you've done, and it's a good place for you to show something that the kids can replicate or improve on, right?
Exactly. So I wanted to give my students an example of how or what I was expecting. So I made my own little video and attached it to there so that they would, wherever they were, if they were filming at home, they could always go back and see my video example just to kind of catch the flow and see how theirs should look, and they can maybe mirror it, at least the flow of it. Not mirror exactly what I did, obviously, but
Yeah. Keep going. Let's see what else you got here. We got status, so it's active or frozen, which means they can only look at it, right?
Right. Yeah. So frozen, if I froze my my SMART goal project, they would only be able to look at it. They wouldn't be able to post anymore. And if I put it to hidden, then they wouldn't be able to see it at all in our group.
Fantastic. What other options do you have down below?
I think this notification is, I mean, I usually have it off. My students get enough email notifications every day as is. So for me to bother them with notifications about Flipgrid every time their classmate posts something is just completely unnecessary. So I always have those notifications off. But going down to video features, this is kind of where the editing happens. A couple of things that I usually like to turn on are the sticky notes, the view count, not so much, but I just turn that on just for the heck of it. But the sticky notes really important because some students have a hard time voicing or speaking freely, just like, okay, ready, set, go. And then the camera's on and they have to speak and they're like, blah, 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 blah. What's going on here? So that sticky note serves as a script, right? So they can type down their script.
That'd be great for a kid that's in a noisy environment. The tractors or lawnmowers are going right next to them. They can type it in and still be able to communicate what they want to communicate.
Right. And it's an invisible sticky note. So they're the only ones that can see that. Once it's recording, the other people who are watching the video, they don't see that sticky note. It's just for the student who's recording. And it's also good for English language learners, right? Who are, just barely starting out. Whether you're having them record in their own language or you're kind of challenging them and see if, they can record in the English language, they can write down their little script there and read it right off that sticky note. And again, students with anxiety or getting a little nervous when the camera comes on, they can always read their little sticky note. So that helps. The video editing helps as well, especially for me with the project. Since they were doing multiple shots or takes, I guess you can call them, it's easy for them if you allow that video editing to like move their recordings around. Like, oh, that doesn't really go there. I can move it, in front or at the end. So that gives them, a little bit of a director's, I guess, perspective.
I like it. And so right there, you make sure that the students do not allowed to like. I would say that prevents like self-esteem issues. And I like how you don't share and don't allow them to download because you don't want them to have other kids' videos.
Right.
And for this assignment, you didn't need them to turn in a Google document or slides, but you could add that if needed. I like it. And what's the last feature, the feedback? Is there anything special there?
Yes. So the feedback, you can allow basic feedback, which is, just did they verbalize their ideas? Did they clarify their ideas? But I decided to do a custom feedback, which is technically like a rubric. So for this one, I was looking for a couple of different things in their SMART goal project. I was looking to see if they named their accountability buddy, if they introduced their SMART goal, if they provided their numbers within the FIT principle, so how often they did it, their intensity, how much they did per day, and what type, because we did go over the 5 components of health-related fitness components. So were they able to identify the type? Did they show their evidence? That's key right there. And did they reflect? At the end, I wanted them to reflect on, how they felt, whether they succeeded or they did not meet their goal. And how would they use SMART goals
in the future
later on in their life, right? Not even have to be phys ed related or physical activity. Like, you can definitely apply SMART goals to all aspects of life. So
Stephanie, before we continue on, I would just like to really appreciate all that you shared. I mean, that is an absolute legend of a lesson. And like you said, if they failed, they can talk about that in a safe environment. They did not feel embarrassed, because sometimes when we do have the kids perform a task or we're trying to do an assessment, and there's always that one kid who just can't prevent himself from laughing. This is the best, safest environment in the current and state for your class, because you are all virtual and you signed up for that at the beginning of the year. Go ahead and continue to share what other tools on there are like hidden ones that aren't on there. Like, what other like little hacks do you have for us, Stephanie?
I mean, I think this custom feedback is definitely one of those things where,
Could you
it's
show
a
us how to
hidden gem.
Could you show us how to add another one just real quick and just like if you want to create like a fake assignment or something like that?
Sure. Let me
Because
get,
because people who have used Flipgrid are gonna be like, I want to learn more. Like that's what they want to learn. That you know, like because that's you want to have more flexibility, more options, and you can tell right there. There's 26 responses. There's you know there's a lot of things going on in your class, and it's fantastic.
sure. So I'm in my first period here and I just picked it randomly and I'm gonna create a topic. So this is starting from scratch, right? From down from the title, it can be, demo response 1, and oops, and then you've got your prompt here, right? So
Yeah.
let's say you picked what are 3 ways to flee from a tagger.
And if you actually look down below, there's a lot of different icons that you can attach
Mhm.
or embed from. A couple
Right.
of them are Vimeo. We have what is that? Go formative, you know, go formative. You got Kahoots. You got Bitmoji. You
Mhm.
have quite a lot of options. I mean, I don't know them all. Is there any in there that you've used that where you're really surprised is really effective?
Well, Flipgrid does a really great job at, I guess, I think they call it app smashing or something like that. Um, I I don't necessarily, I don't think I necessarily have used all of them, but for example, like for this example, what are 3 ways to flee from a tagger? I can definitely think of a few things you can do, right? You can add in, like, let's say a YouTube video of, a minute tag game, and they have to watch that, analyze it, and respond to that. Or let's say you recorded a video, of yourself or of your class, and same thing, right? Of a tag game, and they have to analyze that, um,
And you can
watch
upload a
it, and
video right
respond.
next. You can upload a video also.
Right. You can upload a video straight from your camera roll or straight from your computer. So that makes things a lot easier. And I mean, you've got an image, right? So if you had an image of a snapshot of the class playing a tag game, maybe they'd have to analyze the image, right?
You know what would be
Um,
awesome? A drone shot of a tag game. That would be pretty awesome. But no, let's
yeah.
go. Let's keep on going and back to what you were saying. Go ahead. Like when you're talking about the feedback. Sorry. Go ahead.
Feedback.
And
So,
specific more options. Is that where it'd be under? Remember how you're saying the reflection? We have, you know, smart goal. We have a lot of different options
oh,
that,
okay.
that
Okay. So, right. So I've got, you've got your essentials here. This is what we talked about, turning on this moderation to be able to proof see all of your videos. So that's always important to turn on. Gray is off, green is on. So that's definitely important. You can save your settings to be default, so you don't have to change them every time. And I'm just going to leave everything as is, just so that I can get down here into the custom feedback for you. And again, you have complete control of download and share, attachment link. If you don't want your students to get into the whole like situation, you can turn that off. So this is what I was talking about, right? Your rubrics. So
yes.
there's a setting where it's just basic, ideas and performance, but I think the real gem in here is the custom feedback. Now, these are all ones that I've created for my project, so that's why they're already there, which is cool, right? If you want to make things quick, you can, oh yeah, I graded on that before, I graded on that before, I can just click, click, click. But if I wanted to add a criteria, let's say it can be maybe cognitive or something. Okay, and they were able to describe 3 ways
To
to
avoid a
flee.
tag. Yeah.
Yeah, oops, to flee from a tagger.
Hmm.
And I gave that a score. Let's say, if they were able, minimum score is let's say they were able to tell me 1. All right, I won't go to 0. Let's say 1, and they have up to 3, right? Because it's described 3 ways to flee a tagger. So I can put 3. I'll create, and there it is. I'll have that in there. It remembers how I put it in points wise. It's just making sure that I've checked it off. And it's ready to go. And you can add as many as you want, right? Like for my SMART goal project, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had 5 points in my rubric.
Oh, that's awesome. And you can make it as simple as, what activity did we do in, boom, 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 boom. And then they can just do a short response. What was the main definition of respect, or whatever word you're talking about, or teamwork, or whatever you're breaking down.
Right.
And what other ideas do you have for Flipgrid in the future? That's what I want to know next. What's next for Stephanie's class?
Well, I feel like there's going to be a lot of in the next year, right? We're not quite sure what it's all going to look like. So I feel like there's going to be a chance for us as phys ed teachers to implement some flipped classroom, right? Where they come to us and they've, touched base on a certain concept on their own at home, or maybe we touch base on the concept in class and they have to go home and synthesize what they've learned in class to some extent, whether it's like, okay, if we talked about, let's say balance, right? And then when they go home, they have to, create X amount of balances with different bases of support. So let's say, all right, we talked about balance today. We practiced some balances here and there in class. We talked about bases of support. Now you're going to go home and you're going to, let's say, create 3 balances. The first balance, you need to have 5 bases of support. The second balance, you need to have 1 base of support. And in that third balance, I want to see 4 bases of support. Let's see how creatively you can do that. So they go home. I've got the Flipgrid already ready for them. They record balance 1, 2, and 3. They go through balancing, let's say hold for 5 seconds. They're able to name the bases of support, like, okay, I used 2 feet, 1 knee, and 1 elbow for my bases of support, right? Got to be creative. So you can add, that little creativity there. There's a little checkbox for creativity. I use that for my homemade obstacle challenge, but something of the sort, right? They have to show you what they've learned in class that day by going home and trying it out on their own. See if they can come up with bases of support, different bases of support. Okay, in class, let's say we talked about, elbows, hands, head, knees, feet. What else? Bottom. Bottom could be a base of support. So let's see if you can come up with those. Can you do that at home? We've talked about it. We've learned about it. We've practiced it. Let's see it.
And it's a clear assessment. It's not, it's not a subjective, right?
Right. And
you're gonna know. You're gonna know.
Right. And it's that flipped classroom. And again, the future is so unknown for us. Like we don't know what it's going to be like with equipment. So I named something that uses very little equipment, right? At home, they might not have access to that. Something as simple as balance, they can do that, at the comfort of their own home. So again, it's just one of those things we have to kind of think outside the box. And I think Flipgrid's one of those things where we can use it in a flipped way, and we can use it to assess. We can use it to bring out some interaction, some feedback. What are they thinking cognitively? How are they feeling in our class? How are they feeling in general? A little bit of SEL in there.
Is there anything else that you want to show us on the website before you stop sharing your screen?
Sure, let me head to the top here.
And this is all great. The SEL, you're working the cognitive, you're checking for feedback, you're seeing if they actually learn the concepts. And these are all things that are going to be able to be done even if you don't have the Chromebooks at home. They could come up, and if you got some either Chromebooks, tablets at the school, their cell phones, they know your code, and that code
Mhm.
will be readily available for them, and they'll they'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah, and listen, I don't foresee, we're using Google Classroom, and I think that's here to stay. We used it during distance learning, in the spring, all year this year. I think that's going to be a tool that's going to stick with us because, um, yeah, I mean, we we don't know if, um, students are going to be able to bring devices on campus. I mean, as of right now, we're starting up tomorrow at my school, and we can't force devices to be there. So what's going to happen is they're going to have to do asynchronous days, at home, and we still need to have Google Classroom available. And there's so many. It's so valuable. I mean, I think even my department saw that, like Google Classroom, you can do, journals, you can do, gosh, the sky's the limit.
Logs. You can do logs. You can do
Fitness
challenges.
logs, yeah.
You can do multiple choice questions. You could do short
Mhm.
essays, long essays. You can do anything, and it just takes the hours of work to put in, because what you get is what you put in. And like my old professor said at Cal State San Bernardino, garbage in, garbage out. But if you're putting in gold, you're gonna get gold back. And,
Yeah.
and we got to be realistic. Not every child is going to be able to learn everything, but you're giving the opportunity and you're
Mhm.
facilitating. So go ahead and show us this last thing on the flip grid, and then we can continue our conversation away from the flip.
I think one thing I would definitely show is the shorts, right? The way I used shorts is to compile or create my example videos to my students. So, I made my SMART goal project example for them. I also made my homemade obstacle course challenge example for them. But I mean, even further, you can, if you're not completely comfortable with Flipgrid and you want to start off just with yourself, this shorts section up here can be really valuable. You can just try out Flipgrid with your own, with just you. And let's say do a minute, 2 minutes little newsletter or recap of what's going to go on in the month of April, or what went on in the month of April. What did the students learn? And what can you push out at home, right? These are little newsletter clips to your parents, or that can go to your parents.
Or
And
it could be how to use Flipgrid.
or can be how to use Flipgrid, right? But like having that buy-in from parents and giving them a little eagle eye of what's going on in phys ed and what questions they should be asking, like, hey, your kid learned about balance, reaction time, agility, coordination, explosive power, and speed this month. Ask them what they've learned about these 6 skill related components of fitness. Let them tell you what they've learned. What do each of those mean? What does the acronym BRACES even mean? And if they can answer that, that means they are fully engaged and they are ready to go here in phys ed. So I think it's a tool for buy-in, for advocacy, and giving them an eye on what's going on in phys ed, because we're not that old run-of-the-mill phys ed program that they've gone through or could have gone through. I think we're in the up and coming, and we have the power to touch lives in incredible amounts of ways. We're one of
Absolutely.
those powerful subjects that can, we have many hats. We have that
Oh,
sportsmanship, that
social
conflict
responsibility.
conflict resolution. Um, we have that cross curricular connection as well. So goodness gracious, there's so
uh,
many.
SEL, STEMs, or
Mhm.
STEAM, whatever you want to call it, problem solving, uh,
Communication.
Ooh, man, we got it all. We got critical thinking. We got and like you said, synthesis. Oh, whew, we got it all. And it doesn't have to stop there, because
Right.
you let the students actually have a chance to think of their own games and be creative, then you're gonna become a better, well-rounded educator. So you got to check out the shorts. Got to try that
Yeah.
out if you haven't tried it out. And is that it for Flipgrid, or is there something else? Is there another nugget, or is that it for right now?
I mean, the other nugget I feel is on the students' end. I don't know if we want to get into the student end and what they see, but um,
I think if you're willing to share, I think we got a couple more minutes to check that out, and then I'll have you on again later on, just to chat. Like,
okay.
let's just see what the kids get to see, because realistically, as you're loading it up, go ahead, look at it. Like, as you're as kids develop, we have to compete with YouTube, we have to compete with PlayStation, Xbox, computer games, you know what is it, drug, sex, and rock and roll, all of it. We got to compete with all of that. Like, and if we're not, you got that little cool little, I see that right there. Look at that little ninja dude is getting me excited already. I don't even know what's going on here, but I like it. So go ahead and show us.
There we go. Okay. So,
Hey,
so we've got, some easy cues here. It's pretty user friendly. Record a response. So as you can see, this is my home screen for my recording, and you've got some different options, but they've updated this, goodness gracious, so much. And this is what George was talking about earlier, right? You can do mic only, like a podcast, where students can do a podcast. You can record your screen like you would in Screencastify. So I had a student do that with one of their reaction time challenges in their homemade obstacle course. She found a YouTube video where you had to press the space bar when the red light turned green, and then it was on a timer, right? So as soon as you pressed space bar, it caught how fast you did that. So that was for
ooh,
reaction time. So she recorded her screen for that. You can upload a clip. So let's say, you recorded from your phone and you're using your phone to, make your Flipgrid response. So you can go straight out of your camera roll. Let's say you recorded yourself, doing the steps to an overhand throw. You can go into your camera roll and upload it. So it's not just I have to record it from here. I don't have to. But some cool effects, and a lot of these are just some fun things for the kids, like filters and different stickers that they could put around their little video space here.
could you
But
show us the filter where it's a little blocky or
yeah,
blurred out? That's the only one that people would really,
there's
you
a
know
couple. There's two. So this is the pixelated, this is the blocky one, and then I would say the bricks would work the same way too, because you can't really see me. Kind of like
wow,
little Legos.
I
Yeah. So if
love
you
it.
have a shy student or a student that they may not want to be on camera, and they can do this, and they're completely totally anonymous unless they put their name.
What are the other effects? Go ahead, keep showing us, please.
The other filters, um,
No, 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 no. Just like if you go back to the effects button, you
sure.
got text. You can write down some words. Is that the text where they can see it and not us?
That would be the little sticky note, which is located up here at the top. This
Okay,
is where your script would go. Hi,
cool.
my name is Stephanie Sandino. So again, that's just my sticky note. When I record, it doesn't record that. It's just for me in my eyes.
Great.
So yeah, there it is. And then I think the whiteboard feature is one of the coolest, because if you were doing, let's say, a tag, how 3 ways to flee from a tagger, you've got your,
Take off your sticky note.
I know, I've got my where is my little toggle button here? Hold on. Let me bring up my whiteboard again. There it is. Okay, so I can make myself as skinny, and then I have this whole whiteboard space, or as small as I want. And I can also, you
Make it
know,
narrow.
yeah, narrow however you want to, but um, that's whiteboard. I'm going to pull out one of my ink pens here, and you can control the color, you can control the thickness, but more importantly, you can draw, right? So if I'm talking X's and O's, you can
The
record
students,
yourself actually drawing out some of these strategies, right? So if X is a tagger and O is a fleer, making sure that you can demonstrate a change of direction to flee from a tagger can be visually shown. You can, let's say, we'll draw another X. I don't know, another strategy can be right to,
hide
maybe,
behind,
yeah,
hide.
camouflage behind someone. So, that's really where I see a lot of light come from this feature right here. That's what I really wanted to show. I think that's cool for students to be able to talk and draw the cognitive concept or strategy of fleeing from a tagger.
This would be fantastic for a coach that has it with their team, and like, hey, you know what? This is how we're going to communicate this season. When you get that email, boom, and then they can talk about different strategies. Something simple. You don't have to go too complex. You can even just be reading the kids a little story from John Wooden or something like that, and
Right.
and and the and the kids can take a lot from it. So you got the whiteboard effect, we got the blur your face. What other cool effects do they have on this program?
So you've got some text here. So I know for my students, I can, let me see if I can clear this. So for my students, they put in text to help them out with speaking, which is kind of like a sticky note too, but like sometimes they didn't have enough time to explain their homemade obstacle course. So what they decided was to put the text on the actual screen itself to help them explain a little bit quicker, and have me read a little bit more if they needed to add in some information. So you can add text to your whiteboard or your screen. It doesn't matter if you have the whiteboard or not. You can add it, and you have different options, little fonts here and there that you can add. So if you're typing 3 ways to flee from a tagger, that shows up.
That's awesome. I love it. No, I think it's great for the kids to be able to communicate many different ways and even have their name as the title is like, oh, Stephanie Sandino, reporting live, just something silly for them to make it engaging. Um, and that's what you want. You just want the kids on there and trying to engage. I know that there's a frame option. Is that the way that you can make it look like you're doing a newscast?
Yeah.
Oh,
Actually, I have to get out of my whiteboard. Hold on. No whiteboard. Okay, perfect. That way you can better see the frames. So yeah, you've got a lot of fun frames, but there's a frame that looks like you're in a newscast, right? So
Channel 5.
you can add in some I guess excitement or some skits. I had a student do a little skit with her Smarkle where she like pretended she had a microphone. She's like, coming at you live from Chino Hills, California. And she went in and did her thing with the Smarkle project. But it was kind of cool to allow them that creativity to do that. So
All right. Is there anything else that before we stop sharing the screen? Because it looks like you shared, I mean, you shared $1 million worth of information right there.
nah, I think I'm good. You don't need to know much, and some of these are just to make it fun for the kids. And um, the gold is in the content that they respond with. So the other extras is for some flash and pizzazz and creativity for them to have fun with it.
All right, so let's go ahead and just stop sharing the screen and we can talk just a little bit longer. We have about 3 to 4 minutes left. I don't want to keep you too long. You've been giving me so much uh, awesome information. Um, my question to you, Stephanie, what do you do to de-stress in this almost post-pandemic era? And then go ahead and share.
Um, so I think I recently started tracking habits. So I created habits for myself. And some of the habits that I created for myself was exercise, because I was struggling with that. And we've talked about that. I've struggled since the start of the school year. So getting back on track has been really important to me. And it's this like, circular habit tracker where you just color in on each day, like what you've accomplished, right? And you set out X number of habits for yourself. So I think exercise has definitely helped me out. This is not on my habit tracker, but I think unplugging on the weekends has been really helpful. Just, taking that time to step away from the computer, from the screen. It's incredible how many hours we spend on the screen these days and how much time we spend creating content for our students. So I think I've done a fairly decent job at unplugging on the weekends. And although I'm starting to like stink at texting people back and get back to my messages, I do think it's important for myself to step away, because I I'd I'd be, goodness gracious, like in a mental institution this year.
You're human, Stephanie. You're doing so awesome. I'm grateful that you've been able to record with me twice. I will release the other episode at a different time. I think this is kind of more pertinent to what I really want the channel to be. I really want it to be like this. You sharing, you I could see the joy in your face, and that's gonna be a de-stressor for you. And whenever I have somebody on, I try to make it enjoyable for everybody. So what else do you do besides track your habits, besides working out a little bit? You're running. I know you're getting back into that. What else are you doing?
So a little bit of reading. Currently have this at my bedside. So I try and read a little bit. Joy of movement.
Is it
Um,
something I need to buy? Do I need to get it today?
it's a good one. I
Okay,
I would say, yeah.
adding it to the list.
It's pretty cool to read something that you've actually experienced. You're like, I know what that feels like. I've
Ooh,
seen that with my eyes. So it's just, how exercise, helps us to, find happiness and connection with others. And
I tell the kids all the time, did you pay $1 million to go do that activity over there? Nah, but it felt great, didn't it? You're leaving happy. You're feeling excited. Now you
yeah,
started in here with the 4 or 5. You started a little sad or worried. Now we're leaving with the 1 or a 2, or maybe at least an okay. I'll take an okay every day. I don't want my kids sad or worried. I mean, they already deal with that too much at home.
yeah.
Um, Go ahead, Stephanie. If you have any questions for me to wrap this up, go ahead. What is your question for me today?
What is my question for you today? Ah, all right.
Dun, dun, dun.
How what are the lasting impacts that you see out of this whole year and the pandemic in phys ed particularly? Like,
Oh no,
could be positive, could be negative.
the amount of connections that are starting to be made now, and people are starting to ask questions and starting to share. If you have not been on Chromebook Health Physical Education.org, right? CBHPE
Mhm.
dot
You're right.
org, you need to check it out. If you're listening to me and you haven't checked it out, and you haven't checked it out like at least once a week and had like a million tabs open on your computer, there's something wrong with you. But
Yeah.
you have to find a balance between over grabbing resources and really focusing on what is needed in your classroom. And I'm starting to figure it out. I was really creating a lot of stuff at the beginning of the pandemic. Now I'm trying to find what I'm really gonna find enjoyment out of for myself and for my students. But the long lasting effects of this pandemic is that people start washing their hands a little bit better. People still want to be social. Students
Mhm.
want and crave touch and high fives and things like that. Um, and from my perspective, teaching in Montana this year, you can open your schools up again and be pretty relatively safe because we've had a pretty successful time. Do not be afraid for what's to come because life always gets better and always gets a little worse and then always gets better and always gets a little worse. But for physical education, we need to continue to advocate for it. We need to continue to push for funding. If you don't have it, we need more PE teachers. We need more boots on the ground. I don't think there's ever enough PE teachers, and I don't think there's ever enough PE for the students. But that's just because I'm a PE teacher. I do love a
Biased.
lot of a lot of subjects. I love them all, but I mean, if you can give ooh, that love and attention that PE needs, then that school just develops and grows and flourishes, and their students have so many opportunities to flourish. So I don't know. I got distracted, but there's a lot of good things going on, and I think teachers can be so much better, and you can try new things, and there's no cost.
No, we are better together. And I know you and I are both, in social media, Twitter specifically, and the amount of sharing that happened, like since I mean, it's always been happening, but since last spring, it's been like this like bomb of just like unlimited resources. We came together. Oh yeah, what are you doing? This is what I'm doing. Oh yeah, what are you doing? This is what I'm doing. And then I improve. Hey, look, this is what I did with your activity. Did a little twist. Here's what I got. And then it just keeps rolling. It's like this snowball effect of greatness. And um, we came in numbers as of spring. I think, we, like I mentioned, we are better together. And I think we stood together strong and tall and unified. And we definitely found a lot of success, whether
And
we were distance, hybrid, in person.
what whether you like it or not, the educational Twitters are out there and the Facebook groups are out there, and they're only there to help. And if you
Yeah.
look at it that way, and you look at it like a positive point of view, you're going to be so successful. You're going to be excited, and you're going to try new things, and the future is very bright. I am excited,
Yeah.
and I will continue to share as much as I can for as long as I can
Same.
until I just physically can't, for
Hmm.
whatever reason. But I really want to say thank you to you, Stephanie Sandino, for joining us and sharing all your Flipgrid greatness. Where can we find you at?
Ah, thanks so much, George. It's been nothing but a pleasure, and it's always a great talk with you, whether we're in San Luis Obispo on a phone call or on a Zoom call. It's always a pleasure. You can find me on Twitter. I'm most active on Twitter, so at SM Sandino. You can DM me, tag me, ask me questions. I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can, or via email, sandino.stephanie@gmail.com. I'll try my best to get back at you, but pretty active on Twitter. So
Please
catch me
check
there.
her out. You will love all of her content. She has great quality work, and I've seen her balance unit on CVHPE. Top notch. Thank you so much for listening today.